Stanza 3. Thou who didst waken from his summer dreams the blue Mediterranean, where he lay, lulled by the coil of his crystalline streams, beside a pumice isle in Bay's Bay, and saw in sleep old palaces and towers quivering within the waves' intenser day, all overgrown with azure moss and flowers, so sweet the sense faints picturing them. Thou, for whose path the Atlantic's level powers cleave themselves into chasms, while far below the sea blooms and the oozy woods which wear the shapeless foliage of the ocean, know thy voice, and suddenly grow grey with fear, and tremble and despoil themselves, O year. The third stanza opens with a complete contrast and depicts the effect of the west wind on the sea. The west wind blows over the Mediterranean, lulled to sleep in summer by its crystalline streams. It disturbs its calms. It also blows over the Atlantic and raises waves on it. Throughout the summer, the blue Mediterranean was so peaceful that it seemed as if the crystal clear water of the winding rivers that flow into it sent it to sleep with their music. As the sea lay calm near the islands formed of lava near the Bay of Bay, it seemed to be dreaming. Its waves shone with a dazzling light in the rays of the sun, and so clear was the water of the ocean that the ruins of the old towers and palaces, which now lie at the bottom of the sea, could be seen trembling under these brilliant waves. Similarly, under the passage of the wind, the smooth waves of the Atlantic are ploughed with deep furrows, and the sea flowers and sapless trees of the submarine forests recognize its voice and suddenly grow white with fear. They tremble with fear and, in sympathy with vegetation on land, shed off their leaves. Note the slow moving lines. It is one long last sentence slowly uncoiling itself in its beauty. There is beauty of sound and beauty of imagery. Example, the image of the blue Mediterranean dreaming as it were under the bright sunshine and the reflection on the surface of the sea of the places overgrown with moss and flowering creepers moving ever so slightly. The Mediterranean Sea is here personified like a person sleeping peacefully, dreaming sweet dreams. The sea is also peaceful and motionless. The Mediterranean, in some parts, is so clear that one can see many feet underwater and observe the seaweed floating. It seems to have summer dreams. It is lulled and sees the shadows of the palaces and towers in sleep. All these words build up a picture of a calm, clear blue sea and sky. The transcendent quality of the sea is brought out by the phrase, the waves intenser day. The light is reflected under water. The lines have a quicker movement to suggest the agitation of the ocean when the storm wind lashes it into violence. The wind forces a path for itself through the ocean. Waves rise high like walls on either side, and a chasm opens between them. Shelley's note to the poem mentions a phenomena known to the naturalist, which prove that the vegetation at the bottom of the sea is influenced by winds blowing to the change of seasons in the same way as vegetation on land. This is a scientific phenomena which is rendered poetically. Stanza 4. If I were a dead leaf, thou mightest bear. If I were a swift cloud to fly with thee, a wave to pant beneath thy power, and share the impulse of thy strength, only less free than thou, O uncontrollable, if even I were as in my boyhood, and could be the comrades of thy wanderings over heaven, as when, as then, when to outstrip thy sky's speed scarce seemed a vision. I would never have striven as thus with thee in prayer in my sore need. O lift me as a wave, a leaf, a cloud. I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. A heavy weight of ours has chained and bowed. One too like thee, tameless and swift and proud. The fourth stanza depicts a confession of weakness on the part of the poet. A strong personal note is introduced in this stanza. The poet chafes against the bonds of human existence that tie him down. Weak and helpless, his spirit, like that of the west wind, desires to accomplish the great task of the regeneration of humanity through destruction of whatever is evil and distorted in the human condition. He would rather be a weak, inanimate thing, like a frail leaf or a light cloud which comes directly under the tempestuous impact of the west wind, than be a weak human being fettered by the chains and responsibilities of men in a corrupt society. He feels that as a child he was freer. The he first wishes he were a dead leaf, a cloud, or a wave that is lifted and carried by the force of the wind wherever it blows, thereby sharing in its power. But alas, he is not even free to go with the wind. He is bound to life. Even the freedom he had as a young boy when he raced with the wind is now lost to him. In his bitterness, he cries out to the west wind to help him as he yearns for freedom and happiness. The poet envies the free movement of the leaf, the swiftness of the cloud, and power of the ocean waves, and most of all, the untamed, powerful, and uncontrollable wild wind. He himself is chained in a man made society and restricted in every possible way. Now he prays to the west wind to lift him out of this bondage. The last line close on a note of frustration and dejection as the poet, weary of life, wishes to escape from all this sorry mess which is commonly called life. If the poem had ended on this note, it would not have been a great poem because art or literature that is escapist, that rejects life and cannot face up to the problems of life cannot be great. Anyhow, the poet recovers his balances, lifts himself out of his dejection, and goes into a triumphant close. Shelley portrays himself again and again in his poetry as a frail frame, a phantom among men, a broken spirit, a falling leaf, and so on. He was conscious of the persecutions of the world, and he felt a stranger among the daily world's daily worldlings, with whom he had nothing in common. At the same time, he felt broken under the weight of life. Thank you.